Assalamu alaikum. Well, in this tutorial, we'll see how to use Postman to do post request and also some basic debugging. So that's what we want to do. Okay. Now, before we go ahead and do this, let's understand the scenario, how we are going to do it, and some basic routing. Well, now definitely for post request or any kind of request, you need to have your API path or API file in your backend, whatever backend framework you use. In my case, I'm using Laravel. Now here, this is my api.php file. Here I have defined all this API, and this is the API that I want to visit from my app. Okay. Now, if you are using Laravel, you should be familiar with this. Now here, in general, for Laravel, the API, they all live in the routes folder. Routes folder inside there should be api.php, but here I have changed a little bit. Here I have routes, API v1 and api.php. Okay, well, this is very important for understanding your post request, the directory structure. Okay, now in general, a lot of time under routes folder there is one file which is called api.php, but I have changed it. Well, if you do change your folder structure, you also need to come over here in the route service provider, and over here you need to update the path. Well, now this is the default one, just now I said early, which sits under inside routes folder, and the file is api.php, but here I have changed it, so project directory structure, and you need to update it. Okay, everything else stays the same. All right, and of course, because I'm going to use API middleware over here, okay, because I want our we are going to build RESTful API, so middleware is API. All right, okay, so here we update the path according to your folder structure. If you increase more folder within it, you need to update it over here. Okay, and then once you are done with this, you should come to your api.php file, and over here you can group all of your routes. And if you do that, you can also use a namespace, which I have here used it. All right, okay, now so that's one thing. Now here, first we'll see how to use the Postman to do post request. Okay, now here within Postman, within my project file over here, api.php, here I have this login. So we know login has to be a post request. Okay, now for login I have this prefix which is auth. Okay, so which means when I hit the URL, I have to have auth and then the endpoint, which is login. All right, okay, so I should have at least this path, as well as also now here the namespace, which is api.v1. But if we hit our URL from browser or any kind of external source, in general we do it using small letters. Okay, so we have to have this one. Okay, and your web address over here, so it could be www.example.com and then API. All right, so we are following this structure. So whatever path we are going to follow, so first we'll have our domain name and whatever the namespace we have over here. Okay, so in my case we have this one, and as I said, we need to have small letters. And then if you have other prefix, okay, all right, so the prefix over here, this one, and then the endpoint. Okay, so the structure has to be like this. So now we'll go ahead and find and use the exact same structure in our Postman. All right, so over here I'll create a new link over here, and I'll choose post method, and here we'll enter our web address. In my case, this is dbf.bslmail.com. Now here, just now we saw that we need to have API in our route name, and then we have v1, and then we have auth, and then we will have login. Okay, all right, so now here this is the path that we're going to follow and use this to hit our API. Okay, so now this is exactly same as this one, so API v1 auth and login. Okay, that's how it comes down. Anyway, I need to save it. Now in general, for login you will use user credentials. That should be your password and your maybe phone number or email address. Well, in my case I'm using phone number and email password. Okay, so here I'll go to the body and here I'll use raw data. Okay, so here we are selecting body over here, and within body we will write here our data. Now we'll write the data in JSON format. So in general, if you want to write your data in JSON format, you should start with curly braces. Okay, that's what we'll do now, like this. And within inside curly braces, you need to use your fields that you want to pass to this login method over here. So we do phone over here, and now that would be my phone number, and then we'll also do password over here and say 1 2 3. All right, okay. Well, now we also need a comma when you write JSON in in Postman. You need to have this comma when you separate the fields. If you have more fields here, then there should be another comma here. Well, in any kind of JSON format, of course, you need to have commas for different fields. Okay, all right. Now here's another thing about headers. You also need to mention the headers. As you see that here, headers, the content type is the content type is JSON application. So I'll comment, untick it, and now over here, if you see the color change. Just now they're red and I guess black. And let's check it one more time. So headers, now you'll see now we have red, blue, green, different colors. Why it's like this? Well, for post method you need to use headers, and headers in general most of the time for post method, either it's a Postman or actual server client to server connection. It doesn't really matter. You have to have your headers within for your post method. Now headers in general, we send two kinds of information. One is content type and there is accept type, okay, or accept. All right, now content and accept in general both we set to application JSON. Now what is the content type application JSON? So this content type tells the server, like, once I send this information, hit this button, I'm going to send you JSON format. Okay, so that's what the first key and value tells the server. So content type is like what kind of content you are sending to the server, and the content type is application JSON. That means this application would take JSON format. In our case, this is the JSON format. And for accept type, that means what the server should give you response. The response type is also JSON. Okay, so I'm sending this information to server and this type is JSON, and now after sending, the server would process this information, and in post method in general they should give response back to you. So with this you are telling that the server, you must send me JSON type response from the server. That's what you tell the server. That means that our client side or our app or our Postman should receive JSON format as well. Okay, so this is telling, this is this content type that's going from client to the server, that is JSON type, and from server to the client, which could be our Postman or our app. Okay, all right, so these two fields are important, and if you don't have these two fields, actually every time you try to send a post request, you will fail. Okay, you will fail. So let's try it. So untick them and come over here. So we'll see the body, the color is all black, and try to send it, somehow it failed. Okay, even though I have this phone number and password over here, but it says that phone is required, password is required. That's because it doesn't understand what kind of data you are sending back to the server. So the verification fails immediately. Okay, now let's try it with headers information. Okay, now let's go ahead and send it one more time. Okay, now yes, it looks like this type we do have a different kind of message, and this error message is pretty much about our password. It says that password has to be 6 character. That means that our phone number has been verified. I mean, the validation has been done, but the validation for this failed. But that also tells us that our data format is correct over here. We are sending JSON data, but the data validation failed. So the format is correct, but the validation failed. So Postman also helps you for basic debugging. I mean, if you know how to use it. So from here, I know that, okay, well, my password is not correct. So at least it has to be 6 data, or I mean 6 characters. Okay, so let's try it 4, 5, 6. Now let's hit it. Okay, it looks like it is successful. Okay, so it sent me a token. In general, when you do login from your Postman or from your client, from your app, post request should give you response back, in general, the token and other necessary information. So let's take a look at the backend code over here. So where I have this one over here, login, we saw early that, so here the validation, and it checks the validation if we have error or not, and we combine them into an array, and we find if we have a token for this data in our database. All right, so in my case, I'm using a Laravel passport to generate token. Anyway, so if it is successful, then it gets me the token and this field. Well, you can ignore this, it doesn't really matter. So most of the time after signing up, logging in, you should return a token. Okay, now check out my other tutorial how to generate the token using Laravel passport. So just in the video description link you can find it. Anyway, so yeah, so this time the server response has been correct, and server is giving back us to JSON data as well. Of course, here within your Postman, you are telling accept type. That means server should respond back to you JSON. Of course, server doesn't know what is JSON. It can't process JSON on its own. You have to have a mechanism. In my case, I'm using Laravel framework to generate JSON and response, send back the response to the client. Okay, now do see that one thing, regardless when you send data to the server or get back to the server, we are sending the JSON format to the server, and once we get back the data, it's all JSON format. As I said earlier, JSON format starts with curly braces, and then they have this key and the value. Okay, all right, so in our case, this is the token is the key, this is the value, this is the key, and this is the value. In my case, verified is null. So now this is the token that I will save, and we'll use it later. Okay, all right, over here, so I will save it just here. Okay, now this sign up works using post method. So simply, if you want to verify your login, you can use Postman and send a post request and using headers. Okay, then you should be pretty good to go. And of course, you can do the same thing for registration. If you want to verify registration, you go ahead with Postman and mention the content type. Do remember, if you don't mention them, even if you're correct, this information is correct, it will still give you wrong response from the server. Let's check it one more time. You see, even though my information is correct, but it says this field is required, password is required, because without this two type, server doesn't know what kind of data it is receiving, and it also doesn't know what kind of data it should give you back. Anyway, now let's see it. So this is the token we have. Do remember that token just generated once during the registration for each client, and then it is saved in the database and it gives you back the response. Okay, all right. So now we'll go to our app over here. I'm logged out. So now I will verify the same thing from the app as well. Okay, so here I'll write my phone number 761849016, and now the password was 123456. All right. Looks like it works, and I'm logged in over here. As you can see, my name, my phone number, my email address, things like that. Okay, so now that is the basic post request without any authorization. Okay, of course, in for sign in post method, the authorization happen inside the server automatically if you have this kind of mechanism where you use this authentication steps. While I'm using Laravel, if you use other framework, they will have different authentication step, but here the idea is same. Okay, here pretty much every server should the response is sent back to you, that is in general JSON. Okay, all right, now that's one part of this post method. Now we'll see how to use post method with headers within our Postman. Okay, now here I would like to let you know another thing. Like, I'm logged in over here now. This is my cart over here, and I can select it and I can add things to cart over here, and I would be able to see it. Now what I want, I'll be able to check out over here because I selected my products. Of course I can do lots of other things, as you can see here, and once I hit this button, it should check out and post this information to the server. Now we'll do it step by step. First we'll see if we have any errors here. Okay, all right, and we'll validate those errors or verify those errors or know about those errors from our Postman. Okay, now let's take a look over here. So this is what I'm doing here. Once I click this button, it should find this endpoint over here, which is called place order, and do some basic validation. If the validation fails, it will get me response in JSON, as we learned early. All right, and then I do a basic array format in PHP and some other basic things, and then I go down over here at the end, I save it to the database, and if it is successful saving, then I would response back JSON again with status code 200 and this basic information. Now part of the code I have copied from my other project, so here there might be some error, and we'll see those errors in Postman. Okay, as well as in Postman we'll see how to find those errors, basic debugging, and we'll solve them step by step. Okay, now let's go ahead and learn it. So here is my monitors simulator over here, and here is my this Flutter app that I've been working on. Okay, all right, so here also I will see some log after posting over here. Okay, and we'll see later on, we'll go down there. Okay, all right, so first we'll try it from the app. Okay, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now here looks like it says that it's forbidden. Okay, now it tried to hit it did actually, it did hit this endpoint, and previously we have seen that our endpoint is over here in api.php file over here, this method which is called place. Okay, it did hit it, all right, as you can see from here. Okay, but it got a response, empty response back, and at the same time we do have a bit of forbidden response over here. Now this is coming from my API client, like getX response, so the response is forbidden over here. Okay, now what is forbidden? Forbidden is like you don't have permission to access it, so it's 403. Okay, now we'll also try the same thing on Postman, and we'll see how things are going on. Now in general, you don't have permission, it means that server couldn't find the token that you are trying to give it, so that's why it's forbidden. So why? Well, now here as you see, my route, this one post route, is validated by a middleware. The middleware type is auth API. Okay, so I'm doing authentication for our API using a middleware. Okay, so API middleware is trying to do the authentication. That means that any kind of request, post or get, it should go through authentication first, and authentication is user authentication, whether user is logged in or not, and it does it automatically internally using this token. Okay, but somehow it couldn't find the token, and it says, okay, you are done, you have no permission to access this server. Okay, now we'll solve this. Okay, now let's take a look at the route over here. So the route we have here is over here, this one, place. Okay, so now it has a prefix, so we have two prefixes over here. Customer, this is the big one, and within customer I have one group and then another group. So we have to have a customer prefix and then order prefix and then place. Okay, so that's what we want. But of course in our app we can also find it. If we come over here, we'll see that we have endpoint over here. So you should have your own point as well, own endpoint. So this is the endpoint we have. So I'll just copy this one and I'll put it on Postman. So over here, I think I'll open a new one over here, okay? And I'll do HTTP. I'll put it there first, and then I'll put it back, what I copied just now. Okay, now of course, as you see, it expects, of course, it is a post, it has to be a post method. Why? Because I'm trying to submit this information. I already did, it's gone from there, all right? So I can add it one more time, and I'll come over here and I'll see. Anyway, so I want to submit this product information. So that's the post method, right? And definitely we need to set up our body, and body should be JSON data and JSON format. And I already have the format. Let's see over here, somewhere here. Okay, so this is the data that I should submit. So what I'll do, I'll just put it there directly. Now here it's still in black because we don't have a header type. So here we should have content type. So content type is this one, and JSON. It's application JSON, and then exit type, the one I want back from server. So that's also application JSON. All right, now if we come back to the body, it's colorful. So it means that format is correct as well. Now here, of course, we started with curly braces, as you can see over here. Now this is the first key for my cart, and it inside contains some information over here, as well as other information. So this is the JSON format that I'm going to send to the server. All right, now that's what I will exactly do over here, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now our headers are ready. Okay, all right, so let's send it, and let's see the result we got back. Now unauthenticated, so it's pretty much the same as the one we saw earlier over here, forbidden. That means unauthenticated. So while here Flutter translate the message a bit differently, and also the API client I'm using over here, I'm using GetX API client instead of HTTP API client. So they do translate information a bit differently, but forbidden means unauthenticated, as you can see from here. So that means that user information could not be found. Well, that's pretty that should make sense, because as I said earlier, that we are wrapped around using middleware, and that middleware is API middleware. So for every API, there is a middleware that goes into the server. Okay, for every API that goes into the server, that is a middleware, and it checks it whether the user is logged in or not. Okay, definitely, as you see, I'm not logged in. How does it verify that I'm logged in? Of course, you can't really send your sign-in information here, which you should not, but you could do one thing. You could send the token, like as we have the token over here, because every user has a unique token every time they register first time. So this is the token that I've saved early, so that token I'll send over here, and with a token it would be always unauthenticated. So you can send token over here using authorization, this tab over here, and here you need to select bearer token. In our case, we are sending bearer token. This is the earlier token that I have used, so I'll just delete this and put the one I just copied. Okay, now my token is there. So what it means, if you have a token and you can send it, and if the server can find it, the server thinks that for that request, that post request, the user is validated. It means the user is logged in. So inside server knows about a user, whether it's logged in or not, based on this token. But once again, the token is generated when you first time register, okay, and it's saved. So now I'll hit the send button, and it'll find it, and it'll know, okay, user is logged in. And if the user is logged in, then hopefully we'd be able to hit this. All right, okay, hit this endpoint. Okay, now let's go ahead and send it over here. So header is correct, body is correct. Let's hit it. Okay, perfect. Now here I still get another 403 forbidden, but now let's take a look. This time I should not be forbidden, right? Because I already have the token over here. So what's going on? All right, so now let's take a look at this server over here. Sorry, the server code. Of course, we do have here this forbidden 403, might be this one as well. But now if we come back to our Postman over here, there's some required field: order amount, address, and longitude and latitude. So let's see if we have this one or not. So let's see. Well, we have this order amount over here, and we do have this address, and well, we do have this address. Okay, now here we don't have this longitude and latitude. Come back to Postman. We can't find this, right? So that could be a problem that causing it, but of course it's inside the address. We do have longitude and latitude, but they are all empty. So first thing we could do, well, remember we're just doing debugging. So let's say I uncomment this and I save it. Now I hit the button one more time. Now let's see, and it still get me this one. So looks like this is not the problem here. Well, okay, so here I have 403, but I have another 403 over here, as you can see, this one, and actually two 403. So we are pretty sure that it's not over here, okay, because we uncommented it and it's still giving us. So it should not be a problem over here. Most probably it is the problem either this one or that one. Okay, so now how to work on this? Now let's maybe it was trying to save, because as you see we have save in the database, and it couldn't save it. So there is an exception and it sends 403 from here. Okay, now this could be the problem. So let's say this is the problem. Now here, first thing, because I said I copied this code from my another project. Now definitely the error is not from here, because if we had the error from here we would get 401. So that means that the error starts from here. Okay, all right, so now let's see this field is valid field or not. Okay, I'm pretty sure in my database I have this field. Now over here, this one, total price, let's see. Well, I don't have any total price over here. You see nowhere I do have product price. So this is a null value that I'm giving, so that's why it's crashing and throwing an exception. Okay, so now what I could do, I could just simply put total price equal, because I do have a product price over here. Okay, so total price is the total product price. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so total price is there, and order delivery charge. Well, I don't have any delivery charge over here, so I'll remove this one as well. And now total tax amount, I also don't have total tax amount, any kind of field over here. So I would say the 403 was coming from here. All right, okay, so sorry. Okay, now let's go ahead and save it and see if we have other problems or not. So hopefully we think that the 403 is coming from this section. Now if this passes, we'll get this message back, order ID and total amount. Okay, now this time we'll hit let's see. So this time what we'll do, we'll hit it over here and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this time it looks like that we still get 403. Well, it gave us this empty response, but there shouldn't be any error. Okay, now here let's check our database. We'll go to our database over here. All right, and we see we do have a couple of products, but a lot of them, they look the same. Well, now here on our JSON, let's see change. Well, one of the things, not about food, well, fast food. Okay, let's send this one and see what happens. We still get empty response, but if we come to the database, looks like note about fast food. So this is exactly what we submitted just now and other information. Okay, all right, so it looks like it's submitting, but we are still getting some error. It means submitting, but it's not getting me what I wanted now. So that problem is after submission is done, but now here itself we have problems. Okay, now, well, this should not be a problem. Total price we have. Now let's see order ID. Now we do have order ID over here, but now order ID is actually, I think, is not saved after calling this save button. So what I'll do here, I'll create a new field and I'll call it save order equal order ID. And now over here, I'll just copy this one and put it over here and we'll see what happens. Now, once again, I'll go ahead and use a Postman, and this time I'll make sure that I have something new note about fast food. Now I'll hit the button. Yes, looks like this time we do get things, but this time order ID is 0 and the things are working as we expected, but we do have some other problems over here. All right, so we could move it up there. Okay, and we'll save it. And so once again, we'll change the note. I'll just use S over here so that we know that it's something new. Yes, it's working. Okay, now we'll go ahead and check our database. So we'll find this one, we'll find order ID this one, and the other related message. Okay, now this is our database, and over here, okay, so new notes, we added S and order ID 10012, like as we did over here. So this is how you send post request using Postman, and you can debug step by step using Postman. I know debugging using Postman is a little weird, but it is helpful. It does help you, and that's why we have Postman for debugging, testing our post requests. So for post request, you do authorization with a token, and you will have header, content type, and accept type, and the body format has to be correct. It would be JSON, and once you hit the right endpoint, it should give you back JSON as well. Now we'll do the same thing from here. Okay, we'll see that this time if we can hit the server from our app. Okay, let's do it. Well, of course I don't have any redirection, but now here, remember our post ID, the last order ID was 12, right? I'll refresh it and we'll see. Yes, we do have 13. Okay, and kind of different information because here we didn't change anything as we wanted to, as we did in Postman. Okay, so yeah, that's how you work with Postman. Okay, then it's pretty useful if you have a complex form submission, so you can first do it here and then go ahead and do in your mobile app or whatever app you are trying to work with. Okay, well, if you liked it, subscribe and smash that like button.